For the regular meeting of the Painesville City Local Schools Board of Education for the meeting of September. Ms. Samick, call the roll, please.
Mr. Costello?
Here.
Mr. Powers?
Here.
Ms. Powers-Dolman here. Ms. Remington?
Present.
Mr. Tackett?
Here. Could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could have a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Are there any corrections or changes? Hearing none, Ms. Samick, if you call the roll.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers-Dolman?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Item 2, this is for hearing of the public on items that are on our agenda for this evening. I will read a statement. Painesville Board of Education recognizes the value of the school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. As outlined in the Board of Education Bylaw 0169.1, the board shall provide a period for public participation at all regular meetings, and such participation shall be permitted only as indicated in the order of business for that meeting. This typically occurs at 2 points in the agenda. The first opportunity occurs during hearing of the public on agenda items. This is designated for comment on specific agenda items under consideration by the Board of Education. The second opportunity occurs during hearing of the public on non-agenda items. This portion is for comment on school matters of community interest. Guidelines for participation include the following. Attendees must register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration unless extended by the presiding officer. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, and no person may address or question board members individually. There's a complete set of rules contained in the bylaw 0169.1, and it's available at all meetings of the Board of Education. It can also be found online at our website at www.pcls.net. Are there any? None. Okay.
Nope.
So we'll move on to minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 14th meeting?
So moved.
Ms. Remington.
Second.
Mr. Costello. Are there any corrections? Hearing none. Ms. Samick, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Powers?
Abstain.
Ms. Powers-Dolman?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Item 4, presentations. Mr. Shepherd.
I'll ask Mrs. Fife Yoakum to come down and assist me. I'll ask Ms. Fife to go over kind of the process of awarding diplomas outside the typical graduation date, and kind of give the background on how our students have performed and what it means to PCLS to award these diplomas even at this later date.
So the summer graduates from the students who had initially just finished taking the OGT. They have all their credits, they've had their credits now for some of them 1 to 2 years, and they have continued and continued to try to take that Ohio graduation test and have finally passed it. So that is what tonight is about, is to be able to hand them their diploma, saying they finished and all the requirements are concluded. They have, we have study classes, we have extra people around to help them to be tutored for the class, but they have really been diligent about still continuing to take this test, even though they have graduated, they have left the building and have done other things. So this is really a big award for them, and finally to achieve something, that finally have their high school diploma, to be able to go to college, get into service, whatever they choose to do now, they have that high school diploma. So.
Thank you. And I wanted to say thank you to not only Harvey High School and all the teachers that have helped you get to where you are today, but also to the administration, guidance counselors, and people like Ms. Fife who really go out of their way to make sure that this date, you get your diploma in a timely fashion. So we do appreciate you coming out this evening and celebrating with these students, because every person who is determined, which is part of our pride, determination, is going to be successful. So we are so appreciate your determination and the dedication from your families, and that maybe cracking the whip a little bit to say, let's do this and get her done. So I appreciate this so much, and it is with great honor that I present the first diploma to Bailey Stephen Pierce. You got a proud baby today. I did.
Yes, you did.
And all very proud of you. I would next like to call down Tiara D. Robinson.
Oh, I have my page.
And please, parents, give yourselves a round of applause. And all Thank you, and I'll let Mr. Tackett give this next bit of news. I don't know if they would like to stay for the next presentation, but Mr. Tackett typically.
What's that?
Oh, if they wanted to stay or not, that you were
allowed
them to go.
Yes, we'll take a minute if you want to.
Sorry.
Take off. You don't have to stick around for the entire event.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I supported you.
Grandma.
I said I'm so proud of myself. All right, next on the agenda, Mr. Patty, Harvey Media Production. You're recording this, right?
I am.
This is the same as the PDF?
Make a really brief presentation on some of the things we're doing in our media class. We have a pretty significant expense coming up to upgrade our equipment, which probably would be, would do us well to explain why we're doing that and where that's coming from and all that good stuff. So originally, when the schools were built in 2008 or 2009, it's difficult to put an actual dollar figure on the media that was put into this building, but any engineer that I've ever spoken to that comes in and sees the work that Mr. Griffey and the guys before them, Mr. Hammond, all have put into that, they're in awe of what we have as a high school. So, as you know, technology is continuously updating every 10 years, so we have to upgrade that if we want to keep doing it. So, it's going to be, I would estimate $300,000 was the original cost to put it in, and we're going to need an upgrade between $35,000 and $40,000 for to keep going for another 8 or 10 years. So in another 10 years, we'll probably need another $40,000. Who knows? Probably flying cars by then, right? But anyway, just a brief overview of what it is that we're doing with that and kind of where we've evolved from. As you know, back in the day, we used to have a marketing program that was pretty pretty extensive. That kind of evolved into something different. I have the kids one period a day now. It's a media production, it's a business elective, but it's a pretty elite level class as far as the seniors are wanting to get in there. It's a student-led senior level class. We're responsible for student-created video announcements that run live twice a day. One of the upgrades that this system will allow us to do is it will allow us to record a live announcement and replay it on a schedule so that we don't have to do that live twice. So that's another one of the things that we'll be able to do. We're also exploring the idea of being able to broadcast things as far as a TriCaster situation that would broadcast events live on the web. Again, we're still finalizing some of the research. Additionally, we have been, the last couple of years, populating a website called PCLS.tv. If you haven't visited it yet, it's kind of cool to see some of the stuff that the kids have done over the years. Lots of sports stuff, NHS inductions, things like that. So we try to stay as involved as we can with putting that material on that PCLS.tv site, accessible from anywhere. So kind of it's like that. So I'm gonna head it up here, but you can review that later if you want. So let's see. The equipment upgrade, like I said, we're still finalizing the details. But the original broadcast video equipment was installed almost 10 years ago now in the new high school. It runs on Windows XP system, which I'm sure you've heard is no longer being supported. So we're trying to keep the wheels on that for the next couple of months while we continue to do those announcements with the older equipment. However, there is an upgrade that's needed. I've been working with SoundCom since last year to find out the best solution for when's the right time to pull the trigger, and it seems like now is about the right time because the company just came up with the next model, and it's even cheaper than the one we were going to buy last year. So we'll have the increased ability to record and rebroadcast. So without boring you with too much more technical information, anytime you guys would love to see, I'd love to see any of you guys come and see what we're doing in the afternoon, how the kids kind of run that show, and it's like a kind of a live studio feel and broadcast to the whole school. We'll have, the standard students reading the announcements, and then we'll also have a couple of clips, whether it's a sports clip or kind of a school climate / funny clip where it's like about dress code or remembering to be on time or something like that. So we wear that in conjunction with that schedule that runs twice a day, so every kid in the school has a chance to see it. So overarching goals. One of the things I'm proud of about the media program is that it gives our students authentic learning experiences where they have to come up with a program and that they make and they produce. I think it's been essential, a critical fact in building school pride. And our climate here at the high school is always a fragile thing when it comes to maintaining that positive feeling when you have to kind of tell teenagers what to do without having them think that it's your idea. So a lot of the student-based communication goes a long way to kind of maintain that climate here at the high school. One of the goals I'd like to improve upon is to become more involved in publicizing community and district events, as far as meeting up with the city to be possibly using students that will record their city council meetings. We have a meeting scheduled for October with Miss Ireland. Right? So that's it. So I wanted to keep it simple, but open the invitation to you all. If you ever want to see it firsthand, that's probably the best way you can see what it's all about and that kind of thing. So hopefully that was what we had in mind as far as me kind of touching base with you all here today. So.
I guess some questions.
Sure.
It says questions right there, you're allowed.
It does, okay. Do you have any idea how many clicks you get on that site for viewers and what the demographics are?
One of our most popular shows was in the thousands. I think we had 4,500 on our last year's Christmas special or something like that. But that hasn't been tracked as far as, because it's through a second site, so I can't tell where they're coming from. Probably there are a lot of other teachers looking at stuff like me, but definitely easier to get access to that than it is to our community channel, which is probably 0 people watching right now. So, but it's just the way the media landscape has changed. But you can PCLS TV right now and watch your golf highlights from 2014 if you want to.
Another question, do you have policies for content or anything that goes out into the community?
Other than common sense stuff, nothing written or,
And also, have you, in talking with Ms. Ireland, we used to get funding from the city when we would produce things for them.
Right.
And part of it was part of our community news show, but we would also go out and do tapings for like fire department, or
Right.
whatever. And they supported us very nicely
Sure.
for many years. Is that something that you're
Yeah.
thinking about approaching?
Yeah, that's one of the goals, is that we're trying to get back into that. The only problem is a lot of our constraining factor is time. Remember while you guys used to have the first 2 periods and then they had the rest of the day to kind of hang out?
First 2 periods, like, yeah.
Yeah, and then that was it?
6 o'clock and
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you had the kids the rest of the day to do stuff, so we're kind of battling, the kids that I have are the same kids that are in FBLA.
Right.
Drama. So it's not that they don't want to help, it's just they're. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just,
Yeah,
I mean, that's one
absolutely.
thing about Harvey that we do real well, is we get a lot of
Of our activities.
of our
yeah.
core kids, you know, and, so I think, you know, if I had that luxury of that time again, we could do a lot more, but we're finding a smarter way to do it. So,
Right.
yes, it's definitely a goal with this purchase especially.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just making sure. Hey, for the money, what do we get? We get hardware, we get software upgrades.
Hardware, software, switcher, training, and then,
They do the installations, or you have the kids do the
installation,
installation?
everything's, yeah, the installation, everything. So they're a full service engineering firm. They brought out the drawings, and I'm a pretty technical guy, and like, ooh, you know, so there's a lot of engineering and things like that that go into.
Is the infrastructure in the building and in the room suitable for what they're bringing
That's
in?
part of what we're paying for, is that expertise.
Okay.
So, these guys have worked on, you know, stadiums like Cleveland Brown stadiums and things like that, so this is a pretty routine procedure for them. I'm still learning a lot of things that I got kind of put into, about how to make this button do that, and that kind of things.
And they is SoundCom?
Soundcom, yes.
And they'll support you with warranty and training and everything?
I don't have the final, actual proposal yet, but all those things we will go through and sit down with maybe Mr. Hoff and Dave Shade and make sure everything's in place to make sure. We just had to kind of get the number opened up and so we can start doing some work on that.
You might want to get in touch with Rodney Kosar, who built
Yeah. Right.
our studio and control area.
That's a good resource.
He's at Auburn and also Kent.
Good point. Cool. Anything else? Like I said, open invite, anytime you guys want to come see some.
What time is your class again?
It's at, the news programs are on at 12:30 and 1 o'clock every day.
And that's when you're broadcasting
That's
live?
when we're broadcasting live.
Where do you broadcast from?
We're actually in the pit, we're in the orchestra pit. So I have a green screen down there, and we have a chroma key that we put up like a fake news set behind there, but it's pretty much the only place for us, so.
Too bad.
So now, is it broadcast into all the classrooms or
Yes, so all
on the
teachers,
monitors?
It goes through their what are those things
Projection?
called? Projectors, yeah.
Okay.
Those shiny things up there that show you pictures. But yeah, everybody turns, they kind of look forward to it because we make it fun every once in a while and put some sports highlights on there. Like, I had a kid who made the Riverside highlights, he's looking good this week, so pretty awesome. right?
Magic and television.
Yeah, highlights, baby.
They're on the monitors in the lunchroom and all that, the
Yes.
cafeteria?
But anytime you guys have any questions, you know where to find me.
Let it deep dive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. New business. Our next meeting is, next regular meeting is October 9th. It will be here in the James Dillard Boardroom, 7 o'clock. And legislative report, I do not have a report tonight as well, so we'll get into that more next month as they're getting back into speed. I don't know, John, if there's anything
Just, I
legislatively
would
you wanna-
take a moment to read over OSBA. The last edition of the OSBA came out newsletter. Just would highlight some of the items in that.
Okay.
And they'll be very busy the next few weeks in the legislation, so I'm sure you'll have much to report in October.
All right. Item 7, the treasurer's consent agenda. If someone would make a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okey-doke. Are there, do you want to go through quickly here what's all on here?
7.1 are transfers, so the grant period from last school year is closed now, and everything needs to be submitted to ODE in this month. And so any monies that was remaining on the books just need to be transferred into this year's grants. So it's just basically just a journal entry, but it requires board approval. And then 7.2 is our permanent appropriations for the year. This is due to the county auditor before the end of this month, and this also requires board action. So the numbers varied slightly from the temporary appropriations that were approved on June 30th, but overall, I mean, nothing drastic changed. Our grants kind of got a little more fine-tuned because they finalized the numbers there. And so this will be our permanent appropriations for the year. So we're looking at a little over $47 million for our budget for all funds. And then 7.3 is the donations that were presented to the district for the past month. And that's everything.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Semick, if you call the roll, please.
Ms. Powers-Dolny?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes?
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. All right, treasurer's non-action items.
Okay, 8.1 through 8.5 are the monthly reports, but last month you saw that there was a lot of empty spots. And so we've been cranking out budgets for the past month, and so everything is pretty much in there. So the numbers are definitely more accurate, and there's no more gaps in between my numbers. So we're almost done with putting everything in, but for the most part, we're like 95% done. So we're good.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Please. On the fund report, I noticed that we're in the negative for the Title I grants.
Yes.
So will the money that we had left over be put against that amount that we are negative on, or how will that reconcile itself?
So the money that was left from last school year definitely rolls into this school year.
Okay.
And then even though it's not even going to be enough money to cover my negative, but it's a timing issue with ODE. So I can request my cash, I have to do it by like the 23rd of the month. So then anything thereafter, I can't recoup in that month. They won't pay me until the following month. So they went through and they ordered a lot of stuff for the school year out of title money. And so we had a lot of expenditures hit at the very end of the month. And so it's just a timing issue. So ODE will definitely pay me. And so it kind of all evens out. But they've been spending money very, very quickly.
It is the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And then the other question was our shepherd. That was also in arrears. Will that
Yes,
be?
so ODE, they'll pay me like 3 times a year for that. So the actual cash balance was positive, but again, they put all their purchase orders on for the entire year, like this right now. So we have a lot of purchase orders for them that will carry out, they'll be a blanket for the whole entire year. So we make a monthly payment against the PO, but they put the PO out there for the entire year.
Okay.
So my unencumbered balance is the negative, but when things get caught up, it eventually gets to be positive.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okey-doke. We'll move on to board recommendations, item 9. First is the treasurer's contract renewal. This is a new contract to begin next year. Her final, her current contract runs through the end of this school year until July 31st. This will be a renewal for 5 years at starting salary at $108,000. And we were adding 5 days of vacation time to her contract. Then All the other items were just continued on from the prior contract. I need a motion to approve this renewal.
So moved.
Second?
All right, are there any discussion or conversation?
Well, thanks for taking the lead and getting this done.
Okay. Hearing none, Ms. Samick, if you call the roll, please.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Cassell?
Yes?
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Next item, 9.2, is the superintendent's salary amendment. This is setting the salary for this final year of Mr. Shepherd's contract. We delayed setting that at prior meeting because we were still going through performance evaluation and that sort of thing. So now that is mostly complete, we have a proposal or a resolution to increase his salary for the final year of the contract by 2%, which brings it up to 131, I think, and change. 131, 140. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Samick, if you'd call the roll.
Mr. Cassell?
No?
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly?
No.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Item 10, superintendent's consent agenda.
Okay, 10.1, whoops.
Yeah, let's get a
Sorry.
motion first. If we could have a motion to approve the consent
So moved.
agenda? The superintendent's consent agenda.
Oh.
Second.
Item 10.
Second.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. Shepherd.
Sure. 10.1, disposal of some items. So we see one there is a cooler at Elm Street. 10.2, FBLA overnight field trip. 10.3, out-of-state field trip for for the Heritage Middle School. 10.4, the annual overnight field trip for Harvey High School basketball. 10.5, Lake Erie College work-study agreement for 17-18. 10.6, Crossroads agreement for 17-18. 10.7, Great Minds professional development agreement. 10.8, second reading of September special adoption policies.
Is there any conversation or questions about any of these items?
I have a question. Just full of questions tonight.
That's
Since we vote on this, could 10.5 be a separate vote? Or would you like?
Well, now, if you wanted to change the
I know I should have done
agenda,
that, but if right at the beginning.
well, we can make an, you can offer a motion to
I
amend
will offer a
the
motion
consent
to amend
agenda.
the consent agenda by removing 10.5 from the total
From the consent agenda.
consent agenda and voting on it separately.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Costello, okay. Is there any conversation about the amendment? Hearing none. Ms. Samick, if you would call a roll on the amendment to remove 10.5 for individual consideration.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Cassell?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Okay. Any further discussion or conversation? Hearing none, let's take a vote on the consent agenda.
Ms. Powers Dolly?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Cassell?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. And now a vote or call the roll on the item 10.5.
Ms. Remington?
Abstain.
Mr. Cassell?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolly?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Item 11, superintendent's non-action items.
11.2 is a certification of standards. That's for foods and beverages sold on under USDA Smart Stacks and Ohio's food and beverage standards as sold and outlined Senate Bill 210. So this is an annual thing that's put on by Nutritional Services.
Is there any discussion of district culture or climate? Nobody?
You know, we did-
Sorry,
After you.
Mr. Shepherd, so are we doing September 30th and October 7th?
Yes, I was going to
If you want to bring
recognize
it up
that.
in another,
Yeah, 15.1 is fine, but we can talk about it now. We'll be doing the door-to-door campaign. It's not technically a levy activity, but it will be a door-to-door hanger levy. All great things are happening at PCLS campaign. We'll be sending out notification. I sent out an email today to both associations, that will be the certified and classified associations, to help drum up business. And I'm meeting with Mr. Jones, who already has zones set up for walking, because the band will be doing theirs again in a few weeks. So he has that already set up for us, so that we know we won't have repeat areas of the city.
Mr. Jones,
Covered.
for their tag day, they focus on areas where kids live and they avoid certain areas. So there may be some gaps that we need to look at.
Right. Yeah, I'm meeting with him this week.
okay, I got the walking, the voter registration walking, the most recent, the November 2016 voters walking list from the Board of Elections, and it's 128 pages long. So, I was thinking, and I'm sure everyone will have input, that where, if you live in the city, that you would, talk to the people in your neighborhood, and for the teachers that don't live in the city, many of whom do not, that are gonna be helping us, maybe they could walk in the area where they teach, in the neighborhood where the feeder school for their, if they work at Chestnut, that they would walk in that area. What are we planning on, about a 2-hour session?
2 hours, yes.
So, how do we get a list of everybody that's participating and?
Both associations will send me their list of
Okay.
volunteers, and we have some from the first day sign up.
Okay.
But they'll be sending that list to me, and then we'll make assignments from that, depending on if they're walking on the 30th or the 7th.
Okay, so you're doing the assigning?
With Mr. Jones's help, yes.
Okay,
Because he has it all computerized.
okay. So what would you like me to do?
Well, I think Ms.
Since you had
Fife,
originally drafted me.
yeah, Ms. Fife, we'll send out, we'll probably have an organizational meeting probably that week before the walk on the 30th to just go over fine details. So we'll send that information out. Once I meet with Mr. Jones this week, I'll have more information, so I'll just email you on your regular account
Okay.
to set up a time that we can meet with Ms. Fife and
Okay.
Mr. Jones and
So
myself.
do you want this walking list?
Oh, yeah, well, I think Mr. McDonald from the Board of Elections has already forwarded it to me, but
Okay.
if you already have it out and printed, or is it printed already, or?
Printed.
Oh,
I
I'll
got
take,
it
it would
from
much,
them.
be much easier if you could just drop it off.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, that would be great, I'll make a copy and then.
Okay, so is the literature finalized?
Not yet, Mr. Pacheco and Ms. Fife will be finalizing the final printout this week to send on a template.
Okay. Did we get a chance to look at it?
I'm sure, yeah. I haven't seen the final one either, so.
I mean, I just want to make sure things like the lunchbox having served
Right.
15,000,
Right.
I mean, those are big changes from the
Sure.
last levy.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else?
I was just going to ask,
Well, I guess I'm
and I don't know if this is actually the appropriate place or not, but maybe last week, the week before, Mr. Shepherd, you had sent out an email looking for someone to work with you, the city,
Yes.
and Lake Erie College.
Mhm.
Do you have that person, or actually, could you tell us a little more about
A little
what
more.
the idea there is?
There has been a push from the city and from the college, being the three largest entities in the city of Painesville, for us to get representatives from the board of directors from the college and their leadership, from the city council and the city manager, and 2 reps from Painesville City Schools with myself to meet in conjunction to talk about projects that are going on, not only with the college, with the city, and with the school district. There are items that are pending, let's say something that happened 10 years ago when the schools were built and property switched to the Port Authority and then was sold to another entity. Some of the language in, I'm just using this as an example, in that deed transfer is now antiquated and would need to be revised before, let's say, the college wanted to do something with that property. Also, there is a push for safe routes to schools through the city of Painesville and the Planning Commission. So they would like to talk not only to the school district, but also for the college to be involved, because the push is to get more college students downtown. So there are lots of items going on. Also, just with the college readiness and different things going on here at PCLS, it's a good time to get the 3 largest entities in the city together to have conversations so that they know there's a cooperation and a vision for the city.
So now when you're saying, is it you and 2 board members or you and 1 board member?
2 board members.
Okay.
I would like to have 2 board members because we asked 2 city council folks as well as 2 from the board of directors at the college.
Great.
And when
Sure.
would those meetings take place?
That is yet to be determined. It's coordinating, at least for 2 of the 3. We're always here in the city, but the board of directors, they're trying to figure out who at the college is local on the board of directors that could help President Posler on this committee. So they're still reaching out to their folks, but we know that we're all live here, so it's easy for us to get together. But we're looking at a November timeframe to get the first meeting underway. And each will take a host. We'll host it here one time, we'll host it at the college one time, and one time at the city.
Is there anyone that has a driving interest to be involved in this?
I can do it.
I would do it unless it's a conflict, and if it's a conflict, then I will take my hat
I mean,
off.
I don't know if it's actually a conflict, but I think if there's somebody else who'd
Somebody
rather
else
do
would be
it,
willing to do
it might be better.
I would be willing to do it.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I'd love to do it, but I don't know that, I'd hate to say, oh, well, I can't make it with the way my schedule's been lately, so. But I'll harass you too and find out what's going on.
We know.
Anything else under climate and culture? Hearing none, let's move on to item 12, personnel. Need a motion to approve the
So moved.
personnel agenda. Ms.
So
Remington.
moved. Second?
Ms. Powers Dolly Powers. Any question, or, sorry, go ahead.
Sure. 12.1, we have a resignation. 12.2, employment. 12.3, change of assignment. 12.4, additional tutor list. 12.5, stipends. 12.6, leaves. 12.7, extended time. 12.8, certified substitutes. 12.9, classified substitutes, and 12.10 supplemental pupil activity contracts.
Are there any
Oh.
questions? Go ahead.
Oh, that's, yeah. We have a little break there, and then we have two others. 12.11, that consent for personnel items first. There's a little break.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
the PD stuff for the board
I'm
members
sorry.
is not part of the consent agenda.
Right.
Are there any questions or comments? I actually have one with the resignation. That's a person who was just hired and started at the beginning of the school year. And now we're without a transportation secretary. Is there a plan, what is the plan to replace this person should we approve their resignation?
The
Yes, sir.
posting for position comes down today, and then interviews for the replacement will start probably on Wednesday.
So who's managing, is she still in place or she's gone?
We have
So what
Ashley.
happened? Yeah.
I mean, we
She
talked,
turned in her resignation.
if you want to, I guess I mean, did she give you any explanation as to why?
Just what she put in her resignation letter.
Well, it's not attached.
I don't have it attached. I can forward that.
Okay.
So I guess the question is, who's actually doing the
The work and
interviewing and the
maintenance.
hiring, that process?
That's me.
How long will that take? About?
There was one internal candidate, so I'll start with that and get her background and transportation. And if she could fulfill the job description, and if, depending on that, and then we'd have to go out to external candidates to see if they could fulfill the same thing.
So by the 14th at all, or? That's like this
I'm
week,
hoping sooner than
Thursday?
later, because obviously it's a vacant seat there, so
Yeah.
yeah. Gonna try to get them in as all as possible. I know when I interviewed last time, there were some external candidates that could meet for several days, so that delayed the process the first time.
And with situations like this, should we choose not to accept a resignation? I don't know that we've ever done that. How does that work? The difference between like a classified and a certified, should you say, yeah, you know, we're not going to accept that? Like, for instance, a contracted employee. If you were to not accept a contracted employee's resignation, should one come before us? And we say no, does that mean they're in breach of contract if they leave? This one's a little different, I think, but
I would have to run that by legal. I wouldn't want to speak to that without getting the correct advice from them.
Which brings up why we should have the HR person.
because those things can sometimes leave you in a place where you don't have the necessary support to move forward until the replacement's in place. Especially when it's a contracted.
Mhm. Right, the contract is different. This is a negotiated agreement, so I can run that by not only legal, but also the rep for,
I mean, we don't have one here, just was more
Right.
curious in case they come up.
I'll run that by the rep for the classified staff as well. Trina Moeller is who we work with there. I'll do that first before going to legal. And I'll send that out tomorrow in an email.
Any other questions or comments?
How is it working out, Mr. Haffer, with the transportation with us and Riverside?
It's A little bit on the busy side, like I anticipated, because it's beginning the school year, trying to get routes, established and changed, and getting everything in place. But shortage of drivers doesn't help, so, people call off for sporting events. It makes it a little bit tougher, but, I think we're doing a fairly well job with, beginning of the school year. Haven't heard too much from any of the principals or anything as far as that goes, as far as any problems or issues.
Are you getting any sleep?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Samick, if you'd call the roll.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers only?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Item 1212.
1212 and 1213, these are compensation for professional development. Ms. Remington is our rep for Ohio School Board's Capital Conference, and Steve Costello is our alternate. We have to pass these resolutions to provide funding for their time at conference.
And we have to do it individually, so the
Yes.
first one will be compensation for Deb Remington. If I could get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Powers, Mr. Costello. Any conversation? Hearing none, Ms. Samick, if you call the roll.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers only?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Abstain.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. 1213, compensation for Steve Costello for professional development.
So moved. Second?
Any conversation? Hearing none, Ms. Samick, if you call the roll.
Ms. Powers only?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes. Abstain. I'm not going either way.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. All right, item 13. Whoa. Professional visits.
Need a motion?
I do.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, 13.1, professional visits taken from general fund, and 13.2, professional visits taken from grant funding.
Are there any questions on any of these items? Hearing none, Ms. Samick, if you call the roll.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers only?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Item 14, hearing of the public on non-agenda items. I'm not going to go through the guidelines again, but this is the second of our two opportunities. And
There was nobody signed up, but we did have someone.
correct. I don't know, you came in a little late. Did you want to,
Yeah, to speak to the board.
Yes.
Ferguson, yes.
now's your time.
Thank you.
I will note, since you weren't here when I read this earlier, but you should be directing all your comments to me. Any questions should come to me, and it'll be a conversation between you and I.
sign that sheet.
Yeah, if you would, please, just so we have a record.
Sorry. Do I tell you so first? I'll just leave it. Hello, everybody. I'm Marcia Ferguson, and I am a member of the community, and I was speaking with Mr. Tackett in regards to my issues with the transportation. Today, I did receive a phone call from Mr. Haffa in regards to the alternative that they were providing, and hearing him speak about, actually, let me give you some background. I live at 94 Forest Drive. I feel that I am within the distance that I should receive a bus, and for two reasons. Not only just the distance, but the safety issue. I actually did some investigation into our weather, and in 2016, we had 6 months at freezing level or below. We had 5 months under 30 degrees. And my son is very small in stature, as I indicated to you. Since this transportation issue has gone on, he had his bike stolen on his walk home. The alternative that was provided for me was for him to walk from Fern and, I can't remember the exact street. I actually videotaped it because I went and drove over there. He would have to cross a cement bridge in the wintertime. If we're talking about creating safe routes for the college students, what about my 11-year-old son who would have to walk across a bridge over a highway that is made out of cement? I don't think that that's a good alternative for my son, and I think that it's just unfair. I did ask in regards to what did you consider when you're doing the distance totaling. I actually started to look it up myself. The Ohio Revised Code is silent to how they actually distance it, and the administration is allowed to choose. I did do some research into different administrations and what they utilize. Some utilize the entrance in which the parents use, some utilize the entrance, the first entrance that you would enter, and some utilize where they actually drop the children off for the busing. I did, so I did go back today and actually videotape from the end of my driveway to the end of the busing driveway, which would be probably about 1.59 miles, because you did indicate you got 1.5 miles. I did show where it hit 1.6 miles, which is maybe 20 more feet up. I did it from where the bus would actually drop my son off, which would put you at 1.6 miles at 64 Forest Drive, and I'm at 94 Forest Drive. And then I also did the route from the entrance where parents go in to my home, and that is 1.7 miles. And I have all 3 videos. I told you they're like 8 minutes each, so I couldn't actually forward them on. I am a little disappointed. I feel that my child should get busing. I'm not asking for something that's outside of the scope of what we've been doing for the last 5 years. You guys just took that bus stop away this year. Like I said, I'm a community member. I'm a single mom. I'm here late today because I was leaving a board meeting to come to another meeting. So it's like, it's frustrating to have your child walking home and then to get the alternative to walk over a bridge that's made of cement. It's just, I don't think that's fair. And
Okay.
I apologize, but, and I thank you guys so much for your time.
No, thank you, and thank you for coming. I mean, I know it's been a difficult issue, and, you know, after you had sent that initial email about the distances, and I replied back, and I went and did it, and mine came out, you know, I hit 1.5 right as I was turning into the bus entrance, or the entrance to the bus drop-off lot. You know, the point being, our cars, our odometers on our cars may read slightly differently, and all we can do is go from what our policy states, which is that it's an official school vehicle that's used to determine it, and when Mr. Haffa did it, he came out a little bit less at 1.47 or something like that, if I remember correctly. You know, I guess, you know, on one hand, I think we've tried to work out as best we can within the policies of how best to go about. And one thing I didn't understand, which I learned through this process, was in the planning stage, you know, I was assuming, because you see a bus drive by and there's never full, or rarely full. You know, so I assumed that in the planning stages, it would be almost impossible to truly fill a bus on a given route, but it turns out that I'm wrong, that in the planning stage, all the people who are eligible for transportation based on the 1.6 mile boundary or the other boundary for the high school, which is even farther, or no, it's the same. It's shorter for the elementary school. That those seats are basically all accounted for. And the problem comes in if we just open it up to anybody, then on a fluke chance that everybody who's eligible comes and there's already a seat taken by either your son or anybody else, then that presents another issue for us. So it's been, what seems like it should be a simple issue has gotten to be rather complicated and bureaucratic, and you know, I appreciate your concern about him walking over the Jackson Street Bridge over 44, that, you know, the sidewalks on that bridge are narrow. I've certainly seen people walking on them. You know, the question that comes to us, though, is ultimately getting your child to school is really, it is your responsibility. And so we try to make as many accommodations as we can. And I think allowing your son to utilize that bus stop there is it's an accommodation we can make. The question is whether or not we go and reroute our buses, given that at least you know, the distance that's been measured from your house to the school. You know, and maybe that's an area where we can talk more, is figuring out what the correct route and point of measurement is, and truly define that. But the problem becomes, okay, what happens if somebody on a different route has the same issue, and there's not room for them on a bus? Or, you know, we can make individual case-by-case decisions, but the question of fairness is a question of how it applies to all the residents in the community, or all the students in the community. And you know, if that's why there's a boundary established. There's always going to be somebody close to that boundary, and you know, I guess I don't know what else to say. If you're not, or your son is not able to take advantage of the alternative that's been provided, right now I don't know of any other options that we have. If you want to sit down and really, if you really believe that your home is within or just beyond the boundary so that you would qualify, then we can work through that. And I would suggest, you know, you meeting with Dr. Shepard, or Mr. Shepard and Mr. Hoffa, to sit down and so that everybody's on the same page as far as what the rules are, how it's going to be defined, and that's clear, and that we all agree that that's the method that should be used. Then we can go from there. But beyond that, I honestly don't know what else to offer you at this point.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it. I will say I'm going to decline the offer of the alternative, and I would like to have a sit down and to go over my video as well as whatever material they would present to me as far as how they got the measurements of the school, because I do, like I said, ORC is silent to it, and it states that the administration is allowed to pick from which they would choose that destination. And I did look up, there wasn't much case law for Painesville City, but there was a lot on Cleveland, which is a lot different in regards to how they transport and where they actually would consider the points of transporting their children. And I do feel like our weather is egregious. So to ask a 11-year-old who's smaller than my 8-year-old to walk is just, I mean, and that bridge is just as bad. With the ice, it's just going to be too much. And I think that, as most parents would, they would try to advocate for their child. I advocate for them.
And nobody, absolutely. I mean, you know, that's completely understood. You know, everybody, you know, that's your job as a parent.
So I appreciate it, though, but I would like to have a sit down if that's possible.
Well, and certainly, you know, Mr. Shepard, you can schedule that with, I don't know, would you want her to schedule that with
Through
Marie?
Marie Irish in my office. and the number is 440-392-5062.
Marie?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Certainly.
So, your son is walking from Forest on West Jackson, going west, going further from school. And why is that? Because that's where the bus stop is?
That's the closest existing bus stop on the route by the
Okay.
house.
Because that, you know, that sidewalk is not shoveled in the wintertime.
They can't get through it.
I mean, it's like the sidewalk on Main Street at the river. That isn't shoveled either, and people are constantly walking in the street.
Or on
which-
top of that pile.
Or on top of
Right.
the pile, which is kind of scary if you're coming around the corner and you don't know somebody's walking in the street.
So this measures at 1.6 miles?
The
From house to
boundary is
school.
1.6 miles. When this first came up a couple weeks ago or whatever, Mr. Hoffa took a school van and measured it at 1.47. Ms. Ferguson measured it at slightly over 1.6, and I measured it at slightly over 1.5. So, you know, there's obviously not agreement on that distance. So I think determining that is going to be an important point. And then if from what is determined, as far as how that should be calculated, if it comes out that she's over, then we'll obviously need to deal with that and rework the routing.
I have how does the bus then leave Fern
Yeah.
and go to the middle school? I guess that would be another one of my questions. Does it go, it would have the option of going down Jackson Street?
It heads down Jackson, turns around the corner, comes back, comes down Fern and Crescent, and then goes into the middle school on up Route 20.
So it goes down?
Which way down Jackson does it go?
Jackson
It comes
Street?
from Newell, comes down Jackson, goes all the way down, the stops on the other side of the.
So it passes her house every
Every
day
day.
on the way to the stop, correct?
Yeah.
In the past, we've used just Google Maps or other things, you know, when we look at these. What, does our routing system show a mileage that's the same as your driving?
And you can't use Google Maps or anything of that nature under measurement. You have to physically drive it. according
Per
to
the,
ODE.
in
Same
a,
thing
in
if you do any
a
other
board
measurement
building.
for time or anything of that nature.
And do we have a standard, do we establish the driveway as the measuring point at the buildings? Is that what we've always done at the sidewalk and intersection, basically?
No, you pull in to the bus loop. It's from her driveway out on the street to school, go down Forest, left, and then right straight there.
And where do we consider the drop-off?
It's-
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
The
Heritage.
sidewalk, the
It's
the
sidewalk and the,
midpoint
okay.
when you
It's
pull
not
in.
from her door to the, it's from her sidewalk.
So I can have some clarification, so it's the midway of the driveway that the bus is coming?
As soon as you pull in and pull up to the drop-off point, it's right
Because you're talking about where the Heritage sign is, because that's where the buses drop off for breakfast at the breakfast store. Because I've videotaped that about 5 times, and I've come out with an exact different, the 1 point, over 1.4, or over 1.6 miles every time. So I would like some type of.
there. I drove it 3 times and it's 1.5 something every time. Between 1.4 or just over 1.5.
And would there be a way to submit my video as well as your information once we do, because I do have like 4 or 5 videos.
But it says we have to measure that distance in a school board vehicle. So I mean, whether you're, you know, running different wheels and tires, there's all kinds of factors in those things. But is it possible to ride together and do that stuff, get this done? I mean, we're talking about having a meeting. If your vehicle's showing 1 point, whatever, just get it done.
Take a school vehicle, the two of you ride in it, see what the exact thing is.
Can we do that?
We have that.
I mean, Instead of having another meeting and
the
just
driver
dragging this out,
does.
just,
Well, I mean, from a liability standpoint, from an
Kids.
operational standpoint.
Probably can't take an adult in a vehicle that's not approved, but I'm sure we can get a waiver.
yeah.
I mean, well, I don't,
and get this
Yeah, I can-
resolved.
right, I think,
Yeah.
you know, if it's within the boundaries, or it doesn't meet it, I'm inclined to say we do what our policy says, we don't make exceptions, but if you're driving it and getting such a difference, just get it done.
And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Tackett, you indicated you did it to the end of the driveway, correct, and not to the area?
No, I went all the way to the entrance, I stopped in front of the entrance, and it was still at 1.5. It hadn't rolled over to 1.6. It turned to 1.5 just as I pulled in the driveway. I'm trying to see what our policy says specifically, but, I mean, I guess the next step is just schedule that either appointment to sit and ride or however you want to work that out. But I guess the critical thing is to establish what the distance is first, that we can all come to an agreement that this is the distance, and then we'll have reliable information to go forward with. All right?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Whoops. PCLS, good things are happening. Anybody?
Nice
No.
new driveway.
What's that?
Nice new road in front of our school.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
The grass is weeds
They even did the grass.
that they planted.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna open our street up here pretty soon. Did they do it today?
It's all paved.
Oh, no, they didn't. I was home, that's right.
Yikes.
Well, if nobody's got anything positive to say or any events to talk about, I'll certainly entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Samick, if you'd call the roll.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Powers?
Yes.
Ms. Powers Dolman?
Yes.
Ms. Remington?
Yes.
Mr. Tackett?
Yes. Thank you, everybody.